When shipping ETS has changed, do you need to report the change in sailing to AES?
Yes. After the shipment has sailed, if anything changes in regard to the AES filing, it's not really changeable. It's kind of already been submitted to the Census Bureau, and they really don't. You can file it afterwards if there was a mistake, but they're not as particular about as long as it's sailed the same vessel, then maybe it sailed a day later. But if you know beforehand, if your vessel somehow needs to be changed by a week, or if it switches to another vessel, we will be able to update that AES filing for you and make sure that it's still compliant, and make sure, because if it's not, if the vessel information, the date is not changed, they will be looking for it, that shipment, your shipment, on that particular vessel, and it won't be able to be found. So it's important to make sure you're compliant, and we will, with every shipment we do and every AES we file, we ensure that the vessel changes and the date changes that do come about from time to time are inputted, and then they're adjusted with the Census Bureau before the shipment sails or departs via air or ocean. So, and there are different regulations. I didn't go over this completely, but there are different regulations in how quickly you need to file, or how soon before it departs you need to file to make sure that you're compliant with all the regulations. For ocean service, it's 24 hours before the departure of the vessel. For air, it's at least 2 hours prior to the airplane's departure from the airport. For a truck or truck or rail, it's before they reach the border of the country of the U.S. Truck, it's 1 hour, and a rail, it's 2 hours before that mode of transportation reaches the border at either our southern or northern border. So,
what is the difference between an SLI and an SED?
Question. One is needed. Yep. Yes. An SED is the shipper's export declaration, so that's what we're declaring to the Census Bureau, and that's all the information from the shipment. An SLI is where we get the information from. That's what you provide to us in order to file the SED on your behalf. Anytime a shipper submits an SLI to a forwarder or to a carrier, that is a kind of a one-time POA, or power of attorney, for that shipment in order for the forwarder or carrier to file the ITN. Typically the carrier doesn't file the ITNs, but if it's UPS, if it's a little tiny courier shipment, UPS will file that ITN on your behalf. So it's always be careful who I give my SLI to. I typically want to give it to my trusted forwarder or to someone I'm partnering with and I have a POA with them, in order that they get the information correct and they're filing correctly on my behalf. So one is the information, the SLI is the information that we needed to file the SED, in a short answer there.
Can you clarify AES again with Canada? Do you need it or do you not need it?
If you have a shipment that is going just directly to Canada, you do not need to file the AES, because if the shipment then leaves Canada and goes to another country, they have their own way of recording all of their export transactions, and they share that information with the U.S. on a regular basis. There's our Census Bureau and their correlating bureau up there. So any shipment, traveling by truck, or I guess we really wouldn't do, there's probably ocean shipments, but we really wouldn't do ocean shipments to Canada since we're a neighboring country. The truck shipments do not typically need a AES file going to Canada. They do, however, need one going to Mexico. Even though they're a neighboring country, there's not as much sharing of information when it comes to our neighbor to the south. So we need to file the AES for all shipments going to Mexico.
Here's another one. What about shipments that are of U.S. origin but exported out of Vancouver? Who files?
Do you want to handle that one? Or?
Well, I mean, if it's because we ship stuff out of
the U.S.
Out of the U.S. But
right,
yes, we file ourselves.
Yes.
So we file that here in the U.S., but we have to put what the last U.S. port was on that filing. So if it's going via Detroit or Port Huron, that's going to be our last U.S. port that we list.
And it will be an AES filed for rail export as opposed to ocean export.
Right.
Because the ocean export is actually being handled out of Canada, and Canada has their own filing system for that. But we have then, this particular shipment, if the one that's being referred to in the question, is being exported via rail out of the US. So we would put that as the mode of transportation, is a rail shipment.